Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one, I'm going to go over some of my favorite plays for the 8-game NBA slate for tonight on Draftkings. And before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out, really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And if you're interested in especially about every single night for the NBA season, it's got all my updated plays, info, projections, cheat sheet. It's all updated throughout up until lock. Links all in the description below for my Patreon, because yesterday we had to go all in on the Pelicans. I believe my main lineup had Drew Holiday, Derek Favors, JJ Redick, Kendrick Williams, and then I feel like I'm missing somebody, but it was pretty much all Pelicans, and they all did very well, and they were all very high owned. So if you faded them, you were more than likely dead. And then I still got in, but I had DeAndre Bembry in my lineup still, and the guy ended up getting ejected, and he had 19 fantasy points, which wasn't too bad at 3,900, but he was probably on his way to over a 20-point day, so that was a little disappointing, but I hope you guys had a good night as well. And yeah, let's get right into the video. So, a lot of good options here. I will say I think I'm taking a more balanced approach tonight, because I don't think I can go stars and scrubs, because as of right now, I'm not seeing like any obvious value plays. Like yesterday, we had a couple guys that were really low in the 3K range that I thought were pretty good plays, so it was pretty easy to spend up for some guys. But it's looking like it's more of a balanced approach, and you guys will see, because there's really not too many value options as of right now. Obviously, the slate can change in a blink of an eye, and we can have a whole bunch of value plays, but as of right now, it's 9 a.m., so I can only go with what I'm seeing as of right now. But KarlAnthony Towns at 10K, he's my top spend up of the slate. He's also only the third most expensive guy in the slate, so this is where I'll be starting for today. He started off his last game extremely cold, and I believe he only had 3.5 points after the first, and I actually ended up playing him because I was on Anthony Davis that day, but Anthony Davis ended up being out, so I wasn't happy about that. But I put in KarlAnthony Towns, and I wasn't very happy with having KarlAnthony Towns at the beginning of the game, because he had that big snowflake by the side of his name, and he was not doing great whatsoever. But he ended up finishing the game really strong with 53 DraftKings points. Really took over in the second half. I still think he's a bit underpriced here at 10K, and man, do I love this matchup for him. This game features the highest over-under for the slate at 238, and the T-Wolves have, I believe, 123-point team total. It's right around there. Last night when I was looking at it, it was actually 240, and they had a 124-point team total, but I think it dropped maybe a point or two. But either way, high implied team total, and both teams play pretty fast as well, which we love for fantasy purposes. Minnesota is actually first in pace of play this season, and Washington is 8th. So this should be a great game for fantasy purposes, and I do expect a few guys for sure to have some pretty strong outings. And also, this is a great individual matchup for Towns, as Washington is 28th versus centers and is currently the worst overall defensive unit in the NBA in terms of fantasy points given up. Towns will get his usual 30 or so minutes, and he's been also very good while on the court with 1.64 points per minute on the season and a 28% usage rate. So he's an elite play for me in all formats, and he's going to be the first guy I'm looking to lock in. So I do like Towns a lot. And then after this, I don't think I'm going to play James Harden. He's 12,300. I don't really think I'm going to play LeBron. So I'm looking to spend down more in the 8K range at this point. So it looks like it's a more balanced approach tonight. I don't mind Sabonis here at 8,700 versus Houston. So this guy's been really dominant recently. He's a double-double machine. I mean, 43 points last game, and he only played 29 minutes because they were blowing out the Oklahoma City Thunder. Still 16 boards, 18 points. Game before that versus Orlando, which is a tough matchup, and they play at a very slow pace. 16 boards, 21 points, 56 points, 14 boards, 17 points, 17 boards, 13 points. I mean, the guy's just been a double-double machine. 17 boards, 18 points. These are very, very good numbers. Sabonis, I think he makes a lot of sense at 8,700. Miles Turner will continue to be out, but Goga will be back. So I guess it slightly hurts him a little bit, but it really doesn't concern me too much, and he's been fine even when he does play. On the year, he's averaging about 35 minutes per game and is at 1.27 points per minute with a 24% usage rate. And it's also a very good matchup versus Houston, who plays fast and doesn't like to play defense. These Houston games tend to lead to high-scoring fantasy outings, and I would expect the same to happen here. Houston is 5th in pace of play, and India is 25th, so this is a nice pace-up spot. And I always like getting guys in pace-up spots. Houston is currently 3rd worst defensively overall and is 29th versus power forwards and 14th versus centers. And Capella will be out for this game, so I think Sabonis, there's no reason for him not to have a pretty good game here, so I do have interest in Sabonis as of right now. Andre Drummond at 8,600, so he's interesting tonight. And man, I wish this was the game that Blake Griffin decided to sit out, because this would be the lock of the slate. It was a smash spot at this price versus Charlotte. But unfortunately, Blake Griffin will be on the court, and he will eat into Drummond's production. Blake led the team in usage rate in his first game back with a 33% usage rate, and he scored 35.5 points in 24 minutes, which is 1.47 points per minute, which is pretty darn good. Drummond still had 41 points in that game, but he was also 9,800. But now at 8,600, he definitely is still a pretty good play, I think, versus Charlotte. They're 29th versus centers, and they just continue to get killed by big men this season. He should still break 40 points with upside of 50 in this matchup, and I love the price we're getting Drummond at, so he's firmly in play for me. Not the lock of all locks, considering Blake Griffin is back, but I mean, if Blake Griffin was not back and Drummond was 8,600 versus Charlotte, he'd probably be like 100% owned in cash games, but I still think he's a pretty solid play. He should be able to get you over 40 points, and he should be able to eat on the glass here, so probably another double here. Hopefully about 20 points, maybe 15 to 20 rebounds. I think that's definitely possible despite Blake Griffin being back. I think they can both have some pretty strong games. So do you like Andre Drummond? Bradley Beal, I think he's a good option versus Minnesota. I love this game for fantasy. I know it feels like point chasing because he scored 62.75 points last game, but I think it's still a good matchup. I mean, he had a great game versus Boston last time out, but I like this game for fantasy a lot, and like I said earlier, we got a 238 point over-under in this game, and both teams play fast, and they both really don't play defense. So, and he's averaging 1.27 points per minute this season with over 36 minutes per game, so the minutes are there. He's not like an amazing point per minute kind of guy, but it's pretty good for someone that's 8,500, and we know he has big upside as well. His usage rate is also all the way up to 33%, and it's a good matchup versus Minnesota. It was 26th versus point guards and 17th versus shooting guards, so they have not been very good versus guards this season. I think he's a very strong play to pair with Towns, and just hope this game goes nuts, which I think is definitely possible. So just know I barely roster the guy, and when I do, he never does much. I rostered him versus Cleveland, which is November 8th. Only had 39 fantasy points. I was pretty disappointed, but no, we know the guy's got upside. We've seen ceiling games from him. I mean, yeah, he disappoints some of the time, but 62, 39, 42, 37, 32, 72, 51, 33, 45. So I wouldn't call him hit or miss, but he can definitely go off, but he can also have that mediocre game where you're wishing you didn't pay 8,500 for the guy. But the price is down. We did see him all the way up at 9,400 at one point, 9,700. So I don't mind him at 8,500. It's a good matchup versus Minnesota. This game should be back and forth. Hopefully he just continues to stay hot from the last game. So Bradley Beal, I think he's a pretty good option. And then Russell Westbrook, I think he's interesting. So we do got to talk about some potential news here. So he's expected to sit one of the back-to-back games here. And let's say if he sits tonight, I don't think he will. He's probably going to sit tomorrow. But if he does, we got Harden all by himself. But the price he's at is certainly a problem. He's all the way up to 12,300, and we need 70 points from him, which is definitely possible. We need over 70 points. But it's possible, and I'd expect his usage rate to be, not substantially above 40%, but above 40%. It's already at 40% right now, and he's been at 1.67 points per minute, which would also go up with Westbrook off the court. So he'd obviously be in play, but it is an awful matchup versus Indy, who is first versus point guards and fifth versus shooting guards, and they're just amazing defensively all around besides big men. So, yeah, if Westbrook happened to sit, you can play James Harden, but that price tag it's gross, but if more value opens up, maybe you can go with Towns and Harden, but I might have a hard time paying 12,300 for him, especially in a bad matchup, but we know what Harden can do when he's the only guy on the court, and there's just so many injuries on that team. Capella's out, House is injured, Gordon is injured, so yeah, I could see Harden. I mean, he could have a monster game for sure. I don't really care about the matchup for him because he can just drain threes at will if he's on and then just go to the free throw line the whole game. So yeah, he would be in play. Just make sure you look out for some Westbrook news to see if he would happen to sit tonight instead of tomorrow. But as for Westbrook, he's sucked recently, and it's just, I mean, the game versus New Orleans was fine, but 43 points, I mean, it's okay. But just for Russell Westbrook, he's sucked. I'm not saying he doesn't suck. He's a good player. But just for the price you've been paying, you've been pretty disappointed for him, especially last game. And the guy's got triple-double upside every single night. And this game should be fun for fantasy. It should be played at a pretty fast pace. And, it tends to lead some really good fantasy games. And he's going to grade out as a good value option on optimizers, and he does so on my sheet as well, despite a tougher matchup versus Indy. So 8,400, he does make sense. I mean, it is cheap for Russell Westbrook. Last game, 22 versus the Clippers. Yeah, that's pretty gross. New Orleans, everyone has a good game versus New Orleans. 43 points, not the worst, but 8,800, you are wanting more. 36 points versus Chicago. That's disappointing. 40 versus Golden State's definitely disappointing. 25 versus Miami. That's disappointing. Last great game was versus Brooklyn on November 1st. And yeah, you're probably pretty happy with 57 points from Russell Westbrook at that price tag. But 8,400, he does become interesting just because of the price tag. So I don't mind having some interest on Donovan Mitchell. I'm not really a big Donovan Mitchell guy. I mean, he's a good player, but I just don't typically play him. But it's a good matchup versus Memphis. This is definitely a big pace-up spot for the Jazz here. They play at a pretty fast pace, and they also don't play defense, and they are awful versus guards. We just saw Terry Rozier have a monster game versus them. So, yeah, I think Mitchell's fine at 7,800, and, it might go a little bit overlooked because, people don't typically he's not typically a chalk kind of player, and this is a big slate, so I can't see him having too much ownership. So it could be a pretty sneaky spot. We did see him get 38 minutes last game versus Brooklyn, 41 points. So we know the guy's got upside, but he's typically around the 35 to 40 point range with upside. Of we've seen upside games from him versus the Clippers. He had 55 points, so I don't mind him, but he's definitely not a core play for me. But he is definitely in play. Malcolm Brogdon. So I do like this game for fantasy, so I think he makes some sense at 7,600. He's definitely cooled off a bit after his really strong start to the season where he had 54, 46, 57, 46, and then 47. But, he's cooled off a little bit. But the price has come down for sure. At one point, he was 8,800, and I want to say I played him on that day, but it was fine at 46 fantasy points. But prices come down, and Houston is not very good defensively whatsoever. They play at a fast pace. It's a pace-up spot for the Pacers. Should be a pretty high-scoring game. So I think Malcolm Brogdon's fine. It's not a core play for me, but 7,600. I think he can get 40 points, so don't mind Malcolm Brogdon either. Blake Griffin, he comes in at 7,100, I believe. Yeah, so not a core play for me because, the minutes aren't going to be totally there, so I can't make someone a core play for me when he's on like a more of a minutes restriction. But he did play for 24 minutes last game, scored 35 fantasy points, which was about 1.4 points per minute, which is pretty good. And he also led the team with a 33% usage rate. So even if his minutes are restricted, I think he's fine given the price because 7,100 is kind of baking in the minutes being down because obviously if he was getting a full 30 minutes, he would definitely be more expensive. And it's just a great matchup, like I said, with Drummond. It's just a great matchup down low versus the Hornets who just cannot guard big men. And yeah, I expect him to produce while he's on the court. I think he can get you 35 to 40 points in this matchup if he only sees about 25-ish minutes. So maybe his minutes go up a little bit. He got that rest day last game out, so I think Blake Griffin's fine. Not totally in love with him, but definitely should be okay. And then we'll go down to some more mid-range options at this point. So Draymond Green at 5,300. I don't like Draymond Green, and I probably dislike playing him more than anybody. And I hardly ever do. And I never play Draymond Green, but I do have interest in him at 5,300 versus Boston. Has he been great? Absolutely not. He has one good game this year, and it was versus New Orleans, where he scored 58.75 fantasy points, and everyone's got a good game versus New Orleans. So other than that, he has been rough, but this is also the cheapest he's been all season, and I have a hard time seeing it get any lower. It might, but I have a hard time seeing him get into the 4K range, so I will take a shot here at a buy low opportunity. On the year, he's been getting about 30 minutes per game. It is right under a point per minute at 0.95 points per minute with a 15% usage rate, but it was also up to almost 20% last game, so that was nice to see. The problem with the Warriors, though, is they just are so bad. They tend to get blown out, and sometimes we don't get our full complement of minutes from these guys. And D'Lo just did that to all of us on Wednesday. He was pretty high owned, so it didn't matter too much, but he wasn't able to play the whole game because the game got out of hand, so they pulled him out early. But it's an 8-point spread here, so I think they can keep it within reach. And we also have a 225 total, which is, as of right now, second best on the slate. But there's a couple of lines that haven't came out yet, so I'm sure Houston and the Lakers game will probably outdo it, or at least come close. I know the Houston game probably will for sure, but still, it's a higher total on the slate. And yeah, Green, he makes some sense here. And it's a great matchup versus Boston, who they're a really good defensive team, but they're 28th versus power forward, so Green should hit value here. And as they are top 12 in every other position, so hopefully they'll look to exploit this portion of the defense. And I think Draymond Green at 5,300 is a pretty good option, and he's going to grade out as a nice value as well. Isaiah Thomas at 53. So there's a lot of guys at 5,300 I like. So all three of the guys that are priced at this price range are pretty good plays. So I don't mind him here. He's going to be the starting point guard from here on out, and he is coming off his best game of the season where he had 33 minutes, 30 fantasy points versus his former team, the Celtics. And like I've said multiple times, I want pieces from this game, and he's cheap, so I will take it. It's going to be a fast-paced and high-scoring game, so definitely want pieces. And also Minnesota is 26 versus point guard, so they can definitely get definitely exploit this matchup. And he's been at 1.1 points per minute on the year, and I have him right around 30 minutes tonight. So if you do the math, he grades that as a really nice value. I think he can get over 30 fantasy points, or at least come close to it. And he's only 5,300, so he would become a pretty good value option for me, or more mid-range, not value option. So Isaiah Thomas, I don't mind him. And then on the other side of this game, the other point guard, Jeff Teague at 5,300, I have interest in him as well. And he's listed as probable for this game with an illness, so he should be good to go. In Washington, they're just awful in all aspects on defense. They're 23rd versus point guards, so I have a hard time seeing him not be a solid option here if he gets around 23 to 26 minutes, which is what I have him for. And he's been around 10 points per minute on the season, so I think he's a pretty good play here. Last game, he had 33.5 points versus San Antonio in 23 minutes. They played a fast pace. Washington doesn't play defense. It's a good game for fantasy purposes. I think Jeff Teague's a pretty solid cash game option. I don't think he's going to burn you. And then, so in the 4K range, I don't mind PJ Tucker here at 4,500. Now, he's never an exciting play, but I think he's in play here. And I think he's a pretty strong mid-range guy for me, and I may just be the PJ Tucker whisperer, because the one game I played him this year, he scored 45 points, and it was at this price tag, and all the other games after that, he sucked. I'm just kidding. But he did start the season great, though, where he had 30, 36, 27, 29, tailed off, had that big game versus Golden State, then tailed off again. But I think we can get another good game out of PJ Tucker here. And the main thing here is the injuries. House is hurt, Gordon is hurt, Capella's hurt. So they're probably going to play small in this game, so I'd expect Tucker to see some big minutes again like he did last game, where he saw nearly 39 minutes. He's not going to be a high usage player. His usage rate is only at 10% this season, but he should be able to hit some threes in the corner and just pick up peripheral stats randomly throughout the game, pick up some steals, some blocks, some rebounds, some assists here and there. So 4,500, I think he's going to be fine, and I like this game for fantasy purposes. So Tucker does stand out as a strong play despite his 0.7 points per minute, but he's going to see big minutes, so he should be able to hit value here, and he should be able to get you 20 points with upside of, we've seen 45-point upside, so I don't expect that, but it's definitely possible if he's hitting his threes. So PJ Tucker, don't mind him at all. And then just some more Rockets value here, because they're just dealing with so many injuries. I think Tyson Chandler is interesting at 4K because Capella's out. He did play 16 minutes 2 nights ago, and he scored 20 fantasy points on the year in very limited minutes. He's been at 0.96 points per minute, which isn't too bad. I got him for about 25 minutes tonight, and the Pacers are a great defensive team, except versus centers where they rank 23rd. Compared to their first versus point guards, 6th versus shooting guards, 1st versus small forwards, and 1st versus power forwards. So the way to beat them is down low with centers. So Tyson Chandler at this price tag, I think he's interesting. It's never fun to play Tyson Chandler, but I think he could probably squeak out 20 points for you at the very least. Then one more guy, Austin Rivers, who got his dad teed up. That was pretty funny if you guys saw that on Twitter. He's going to see big minutes. It's just gross, though. He had a bad shooting night last game out. He was 1 for 8 from 3, 3 from 12 from the field. 34 minutes, though, and if those shots fall, he's going to get you over 20 fantasy points. And at 3,700, I don't hate it. It's just cheap Rockets exposure. I know last season there was like a stretch where I was playing like Austin Rivers every single game because he was just so dirt cheap and playing big minutes. And it worked out a couple of times. So, if he's going to get me 30 minutes, I think he's going to be fine if his shots can fall. He's not going to be an exciting play, but he could probably get the job done here. Should be able to get over 15 fantasy points. So Austin Rivers, I don't mind him. And that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully some more value options open up so we can fit some more studs in. But we'll see. As of right now, we're looking at multiple guys in the 4K to 5K range. So I think I might go a little bit balanced tonight. I could see Towns being my highest price player that I'm going to put in my lineup, and then maybe go with someone like Drummond, Beal, or Sabonis as my second highest guy. So we will see. But I'm going to leave you guys with that. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. If you want all my up-to-date info, I update it all the way up till lock. Link below in the description below for my spreadsheets. I do projections, values, and on my Slack chat where you can hang out, ask me questions, ask the other people questions in the chat that will help you too. And yeah, that's going to be it. So see you guys in the next video. Wish you guys the best of luck and enjoy your Friday. And all my classes got canceled today, so I know I'm enjoying my Friday. I'm going to go play some Modern Warfare right now. And I hope you guys have a good day as well.